as we begin this new year. I want to take a moment just to share with you guys little clips that we're going to post for you that kind of go along with what we're doing on Wednesday night. So, right from the get go this year, I want to encourage you guys and I want to try and challenge you guys to set your hearts to becoming people of prayer. My cry for you as we go through this new series is simply to pray first. In every situation, whether it's good or bad, I want to challenge you to try to pray before you act. A lot of times, we have a tendency to act first, and then God comes and we use Him to bail us out of the situation that we got us into. You see, our prayer should be our first response, not the last resort. So, through this series, I'm hoping that you guys would begin to understand what prayer is, why we pray, how we can pray. I want to share with you guys ways that you can pray. I want to share with you guys not only ways that you can pray, but I also want us to understand what it is to even begin with. What is prayer? You see, I don't want to just tell you, hey, prayer is important, guys. You guys should be praying. That's something that you would expect to hear. That's something that you expect to hear at church. But hearing that you need to pray isn't enough. In order for the prayer to become part of your life, and listen, guys, it has to be part of my life. It has to be something that we look forward to doing. Most people don't enjoy prayer. I don't really like to pray a lot of the times because when I started studying this, I found out that we really aren't taught how to pray. We're not really taught ways to pray. We're not really taught the importance of praying, except for you're supposed to do it. And most times when you look at prayer, you're given the Lord's Prayer as a model. And trust me, we're going to look at that, but I don't want it to be seen as just another example of prayer. I hope, and my prayer is that through this series, prayer becomes personal to you. And that in that personal time that you get to spend in the presence of God, that it would become a joy to your life. So, as we go through this series, there's going to be a couple of videos, a couple of voiceovers, kind of like this. And what I want to do is I want to encourage you, and again, we're going to be challenging you to learn what prayer is, how to pray, why to pray, because when you do, that is when prayer becomes a part of your everyday life. And when it becomes everyday life, when it becomes a lifestyle, we then begin to pray before the day begins. We pray before we go to bed. We pray before we go to school or before we go to work. We pray before we send that text or that Snapchat or that video on TikTok. We pray before we eat, before we drive someplace, and even before you travel. We pray when bad things happen. We pray before bad things happen. And here's one that's important. We don't just pray before something happens. We also pray after something happens. That's important. And I hope you catch that through the series. But the idea is that in every situation, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge myself this season, this series, this new year to pray first and to learn that prayer changes everything.